A pregnant woman named Constance finds a powerful spider in the Amazon forest, but her partner Ezekiel quickly shoots her because he wants it for himself. After he leaves, a group of strange humans in the forest show up to help Constance deliver her baby. Before she then dies, the leader of the group tells her that the day her daughter needs answers regarding the strange experiences she'll encounter, he'll be there for her. Many years later, a paramedic named Cassandra is driving an ambulance really fast while her partner, Ben, is treating a patient at the back. In the process, she almost hits a schoolgirl who doesn't look pleased. When she finally arrives at the hospital, a young boy brings Cassandra a painting to thank her for saving his mom. Even though she doesn't look interested, Ben convinces her to take it. After she does, the boy and his father leave the hospital while the patient's stepdaughter, Julia, waits behind. Much later, Cassandra heads home after a long day at work. As she looks at the young boy's painting of his parents, she opens a briefcase to look at some journals and pictures belonging to her late mom, Constance. The next day, while at work, Cassandra enters a flipped vehicle to save a patient. However, as the patient gets out with Ben's help, the car falls into the ocean. Cassandra struggles to free herself, but after a while, she sees a weird form of energy moving around her. Cassandra looks confused by this, but she then starts seeing several memory flashes. Before she understands what's happening, she wakes up after Ben saves her. While he's then checking her vitals, he says she's doing okay. However, she suddenly experiences a déjà vu moment when she hears Ben asking to check her vitals again. Cassandra looks shocked and asks why he wants to do it again, but Ben doesn't understand her. He then gets increasingly worried as she leaves after mentioning the reading for her oxygen levels even before the machine shows it. Elsewhere, Ezekiel goes to the theater and sits next to a woman he admires. After the show, he heads home with her, and while he's sleeping, he has a nightmare of himself getting killed by 3 girls wearing masks. As he wakes up, the woman asks him what's going on, and he tells her that he has been having visions of the girls who will kill him one day. She doesn't understand this, but Ezekiel then mentions that he's hoping to use a technology that the National Security Agency has just developed to help trace the girls so he can kill them. As it turns out, the woman works at the NSA, and Ezekiel is trying to get the password to her keycard so he can break into the facility to get a copy of the technology he wants. After he then gets the password, he kills her. The next day, Cassandra attends the baby shower for Ben's sister-in-law, Mary. Because Mary's husband is not around, Ben is in charge of the party, and he tells Cassandra to join the other ladies. After meeting Mary inside, Cassandra joins the other ladies to begin the party. As they then start a game to pick the baby's name, Mary asks Cassandra what she thinks, but she has no other choice but Ben. Before Mary can reply, Cassandra suddenly experiences another déjà vu moment. As Mary asks her for the baby's name again, Cassandra mentions that she has said something before, but all the ladies in the room look confused. Just then, Ben comes in to inform Cassandra that they must leave because of an emergency. As she follows him, she tells him that she has been experiencing a weird sense of déjà vu, but he says nothing. After arriving at the emergency scene, Cassandra sees a colleague named O'Neill and gets a vision where she sees that she'll try to save him from dying. Cassandra doesn't understand this, but after helping her patient, she meets O'Neill so she can follow him in leaving the scene. He tells her not to worry, but she then gets another vision where she sees that he's going to be in an accident. However, she ignores it because she still doesn't understand what's happening. As he then enters his ambulance and leaves, a moving truck suddenly hits him. Cassandra immediately runs to help him, and at that point, she realizes that what she saw actually happened. Unfortunately, O'Neill dies, and Cassandra looks disappointed that she couldn't save him. Due to the trauma from what happened, Cassandra goes to see a therapist who says there's nothing wrong with her. She then mentions the visions, but the therapist insists that it's unlikely that she saw anything. Following this, she heads home and decides not to attend O'Neill's funeral. Elsewhere, Ezekiel plays with his spider while complaining to his assistant, Amaria, that she needs to use the NSA technology to find his future killers. Since he already knows what they look like, Amaria uses the technology to determine their real faces without the masks. As Ezekiel then sees them, he tells Amaria to find them. The next day, Amaria finds all 3 girls walking around the same subway station. Because of how unlikely it is, she suggests that it might be the day they meet. Meanwhile, Cassandra is also at the subway station, and as she enters the train, she gets random déjà vu moments of people talking to her. After a while, a girl named Anya enters the train, and Cassandra sees Ezekiel killing her. This leaves her shocked, but as Julia also enters, she sees the same thing. Cassandra can't seem to understand what's happening, but she then sees another girl named Maddie getting killed by the same person. Almost immediately, Maddie enters the train, leaving Cassandra worried about whether the things she saw will happen. She eventually decides to get off the train, but as she's about to do that, she sees Ezekiel coming toward the cabin where the girls are. Suddenly, she grabs the girls and tells them to go out if they don't want to die. While the girls look confused as they get down, Cassandra gets a good look at Ezekiel, who starts running so he can get off the train. Meanwhile, the girls are still confused, and as Cassandra sees some cops nearby, she gets a vision of herself getting arrested. As she turns, Julia shouts that they're being kidnapped, but Cassandra tells her to stay silent. Just as they ask why she took them off the train, Cassandra sees a strange creature crawling on the ceiling. As she shows them, the girls see this and follow Cassandra as she escapes. Luckily, the creature, which turns out to be Ezekiel, is unable to reach them as they enter another train. However, when they get off the train, some cops arrest Cassandra because they believe she's kidnapping the girls. Before she gets cuffed, Ezekiel shows up and kills all the cops while Cassandra manages to escape with the girls. Before he finds them again, she steals a cab and gets the girls to come with her. While they're leaving, the girls ask who the strange creature is, and she says she doesn't know. She then asks for their names, and after they tell her, Julia thanks her for protecting them. However, Cassandra says she'll leave them with their parents to deal with the bad guy. Coincidentally, the girls mention that their parents are not in town, and this leaves Cassandra with no choice but to take them somewhere safe. Just then, she hears a report on the radio about a criminal at the subway station. However, the reporter says it's a female who has kidnapped some girls. As she realizes that she's now the criminal since no other person saw Ezekiel, she laments about how Julia called her a kidnapper in front of the police. Julia says she didn't know what was happening, but Cassandra then mentions that she'll have to take the girls with her since they're the only ones who know that she's innocent. Elsewhere, Ezekiel looks pissed as he asks Amaria how the girls knew he was coming. He then tells her to do everything she can to find them. Meanwhile, Cassandra drives the girls into the woods so they can stay there for a while. Suddenly, Julia remembers that Cassandra was the paramedic who saved her stepmom. Anya also recognizes Cassandra as the neighbor who leaves her junk mail in the lobby. Maddie doesn't seem to know her, but Cassandra remembers that she was the girl who almost got hit by the ambulance. As they then ask how she knew they'd die, Cassandra says she can see the future. Maddie doesn't believe her, but Cassandra says she still doesn't know how to control it. The girls also ask about the creature they saw, but Cassandra says she doesn't know anything. As the girls seem particularly concerned by how he can crawl on the ceiling like a spider, Cassandra remembers her mom's research and decides to leave so she can find out who Ezekiel could be. She then tells the girls to wait in the woods until she returns. Following this, Cassandra goes home and reads her mom's journal, where she learns about a group of people called Las Aranas, who get incredible powers from a spider. As she sees that Ezekiel's powers are consistent with the Las Aranas people, she thinks he's one of them. After reading for a while, she also discovers that seeing the future is one of their powers. Since she has this particular power, she tries to crawl on the wall, but she discovers that she can't do it. After a while, she sees a picture of Ezekiel with her mom, and this leaves her confused. Elsewhere, the girls get tired of staying in the woods, and since they're hungry, Maddie suggests going to a nearby diner. After they get there, a man recognizes them as the 3 girls who got kidnapped. He calls the police immediately, but Amaria intercepts the call and informs Ezekiel of where the girls are. Meanwhile, Cassandra returns to the woods and sees that the girls are no longer there. She then follows their footmarks until she sees them dancing on a table inside the diner. As she enters, she looks disappointed in the girls and mentions that they have to leave. Just then, Ezekiel enters the diner and immediately attacks the girls before stabbing Cassandra. This eventually turns out to be a vision, so Cassandra drives the taxi to the diner instead. Just as Ezekiel arrives to kill the girls, Cassandra hits him with the car. She then tells the girls that they have to leave. Before they do, Ezekiel holds Cassandra's hand to pass a lethal poison into her system, but she pushes his hand away. Following this, she leaves with the girls and complains about how they failed to follow her instruction to stay in the woods. Meanwhile, Ezekiel asks Amaria who Cassandra is, and as she checks, she tells him that the person who saved the girls is Constance's daughter, though he can't seem to believe this. Elsewhere, Cassandra gets the girls to a motel and tells them that she'll take them to their parents in the morning. The girls look scared by this, and Julie mentions that her mom is in a psych ward. She adds that her dad and stepmom don't care about her. Maddie also says that her parents hate her because they believe having a child slowed down their careers. Anya also mentions that she can't go to the police because she's an illegal immigrant whose father already got deported. With this, Cassandra has no choice but to think of something else. That night, while the girls are sleeping, Cassandra leaves the motel and heads back to the crime scene. As she looks around, Ezekiel shows up and tells her to stop protecting the girls. He adds that he has seen a vision where the girls will kill him when they have powers. Cassandra looks shocked to hear this, but Ezekiel then tells her not to be like her mother, who underestimated the powers of the spider. Suddenly, Cassandra wakes up, and it turns out to be another vision. In the morning, when the girls wake up, Cassandra informs them about how Ezekiel can poison them. She says that if the poison gets to their heart, they'll die. To keep themselves safe, she teaches them how to do CPR so that they can get the heart to work again. After this, she tells them about the Las Aranas people and says she has to go to Peru to find answers. The girls look scared because they'll be alone, but Cassandra hands them over to Ben, who she tells to keep them from being seen. Even though Ben doesn't understand what's going on, he agrees to take the girls in. Following this, Cassandra travels to Peru. After a while, she gets to the forest, and as she then gets a vision of the Las Aranas people, a man named Santiago appears behind her and says he knew she'd come for answers one day. As he then leads her to the sacred cave where she was born, Cassandra can't seem to understand why her mom hated her so much that she chose to travel to the Amazon in the last days of her pregnancy. Santiago then says she needs to understand her past. After he pushes her into the sacred water, Cassandra starts to see things from the past, including when Ezekiel killed her mom. She also sees how the Las Aranas people allowed a spider to bite Constance so that she'd be strong enough to deliver her baby. As Cassandra still looks angry at her mom, she then sees a time from the past when Constance found out that her unborn baby had a degenerative disorder. Since the doctor couldn't provide any cure, Constance talks about going to the Amazon to find a spider that is believed to have features that can save her baby. At this point, Cassandra realizes that Constance actually went to the Amazon to find a cure for her. Ezekiel had also come with her to offer protection, but no one knew he had a different motive. Before Cassandra leaves, she hugs her mom and apologizes for hating her for no reason. A while later, Cassandra meets Santiago again, and she asks him how he could connect her with Constance. Santiago says it was all Cassandra, but she looks confused. He then says that while she might not have crawling abilities or poisonous hands, her mind has infinite potential. He adds that when she learns how to control it, she'll be able to be in multiple places at once. As she also mentions Ezekiel, Santiago says he'll never be able to escape his fate. Days later, Julia, Anya, and Maddie are staying with Ben at Mary's house. While the girls are talking, Mary's water breaks, so she informs Ben immediately. He calls the ambulance, but Mary insists that they need to get to the hospital as soon as possible. Just then, Ben leaves the house with the girls so that they can take Mary to get medical care. As they leave, a security camera spots Maddie inside the car. Amaria sees this and informs Ezekiel, who then leaves to find them. Elsewhere, Cassandra arrives at Mary's house to check on the girls, but she gets a vision and sees that they have already left the house. She also gets another vision where she sees that Ezekiel will find and kill them. When an ambulance arrives at the house, Cassandra steals it and drives fast so she can find the girls. As Ben's car also gets stuck on the road, he sees Ezekiel nearby, and the girls immediately recognize him. Before Ezekiel drops a grenade on Ben's car, Cassandra shows up and hits him with the ambulance. Cassandra then takes the girls into the ambulance while she tells Ben to take Mary to the hospital. Just as Ezekiel keeps following the ambulance, Cassandra gets Anya to charge the defibrillator so that it can be used to shock the top of the ambulance when Ezekiel climbs on it. This works out quite well, but after a while, the ambulance stops. Just then, Cassandra gets a vision of how she could save the girls. Following this, she uses the ambulance's radio to call in a code to request emergency transport using a helicopter. She also gets into a building where she sees a bag of explosives, which she gives to the girls to hide around. The girls seem nervous, but Cassandra assures them that the plan is to trap Ezekiel. As the girls do this, Ezekiel enters the building and gets affected by the explosions while the girls escape. When they reach the roof, the helicopter pilot tells them to move to where he can land. Just then, Cassandra gets a vision where she sees a nearby marquee's letter S falling. As she then takes the girls to where the helicopter will land, Ezekiel stops them from going any further. He also blows up the helicopter, so they won't have a way out. Despite this, Cassandra uses her visions to help the girls avoid getting killed. Unfortunately, though, Ezekiel attacks the girls in different places because he knows she can't save all three at once. Just then, Cassandra remembers what Santiago told her about being able to be in different places simultaneously. Following this, she forces herself to channel her powers to clone herself in 3 places. This works out well, but just as she saves the girls, Ezekiel attacks Cassandra. She then runs towards the marquee's letter S, while Ezekiel says she can't use her mind to beat him. Amidst a series of explosions happening around them, a sharp metal falls and keeps him trapped. Cassandra then says that even though he has been trying to run away from his future, he will never be able to do so because she's the one who gets him killed and not the girls. Just then, the letter S falls on him and he dies. However, the explosion hits the platform where Cassandra is standing, so she falls into the sea. As she drowns, she also gets hit by the letter S before Julia saves her. Because she's no longer breathing, the girls then practice the CPR she taught them. After a while, Cassandra wakes up, but she appears to have lost her eyesight. A while later, Mary gives birth to her baby, and Ben looks happy to be an uncle. Elsewhere, the girls also look happy to see that Cassandra is alive. As a nurse, then asks if they're all relatives. Cassandra says the girls are now hers. Days later, the girls return to Cassandra's house after a shopping trip. As they unpack the things they got, Julia asks Cassandra about her sight, and she says she's seeing much better than at any point in her life. The girls then ask if she can see them in the future, and she says she can see them fighting for what they believe in while being very powerful. As the girls then look happy about this, Cassandra gets a vision where she sees herself leading the girls as a hero team while playing with one of the Las Aranas spiders.